Welcome to the Changemakers Sessions. Our topic tonight is tools for anxiety. I'm so thankful to you magnificent beings who are here with me live, and I'm also thankful to those of you who are watching the replay. You are just as lovely. I'm Kimberly Carroll, and I am a coach for Changemakers. So, folks, I help activists, healers, nonprofit peeps, social entrepreneurs, and mission-driven leaders in basically all social justice arenas. And I help you to empower yourselves so you can do even more good in the world. I know all of you are from different backgrounds here tonight. I love seeing that. Some of you are new to calling yourself a change maker, but I tell you, if you're out there trying to do some good in the world in whatever little corner you are in, you are a change maker, my friends. So thank you for being here. So tonight, anxiety. I think every time we say anxiety, we need to do. No, that's going to get very cumbersome. But it is one of those things that just weights us down sometimes just thinking about it. So tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a little bit of a better understanding of what's happening around your anxiety, where it's coming from, and also some of the things that we need to start cultivating and putting into place as a counterpoint to anxiety. And then we're also going to test drive some on-the-spot tools for lowering your anxiety levels. So we're going to sort of work on some of that deeper stuff, and then we're going to get into action. So hopefully, does that sound okay? Okay, excellent. So let's start off by talking about, cranking up the stakes a little bit. It's not surprising that a lot of folks are here tonight. Anxiety is very common for change makers, and it makes sense. Okay, but change makers are people who are tend to be especially tuned to the pain and suffering that's going on in the world. Tend to know about the injustices and are activated by the injustices in the world. They're very aware of the urgency of the state of the world. And so this kind of always being on the edge of that, always being aware of that, it creates a lot of different types of pain. Sorrow, anger, hopelessness. But anxiety, my friends, anxiety is in a special pain class all of its own. Anxiety is a feeling that something bad is happening or is going to happen in your own life or in the world at large. And for many of us, it can be pretty unceasing. Okay. Anxiety isn't really that, oh, I get a little scared or I get a little bit of stage fright here and there. Anxiety is kind of, it's an ongoing thing. It's kind of, it doesn't maybe take us down right away. It doesn't debilitate us, but it's this low grade thing throughout much of our life that can really be damaging to both ourselves and our missions in the world. Um, Anxiety impairs our awareness, our ability to be present and actually know what's going on, not through a million different fear filters. It impairs our creativity. I mean, when you're like this, how can you be flowing open to creativity? It impairs our courage. I mean, when we are tight and we are trembling inside, we're not going to take on something that requires a lot of bravery. It also chips away at our connections. Again, anxiety is like a wall that is between you and the rest of the world. So it's really hard to find deep connections through that wall. It certainly does disrupt your peace, and it makes it really hard to create joy in your life. Okay, it generally makes life feel a little bit dry and thin. Does that make sense to anybody? Like dry and thin? And if left unchecked, anxiety, it can result in debilitating overwhelm, reactiveness, focus problems, and of course, some really serious health issues. Terry Guimay has a quote, and I've always really found it powerful. He says, if your teeth are clenched and your fists are clenched, your lifespan is probably clenched. Yeah. So it's kind of things like that when I'm getting caught up in anxiety that make me go, whoa, 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 this can't be the way it is. So let's talk about a little bit what's at the root of anxiety. Now, a lot of you may think anxiety just comes from having too much stress in your life. You may think it's from having lots of big projects that need to get done, or it's because of your ailing parents that it's just causing a lot of stress in your life, or stress about paying the bills, or stress about a big talk that's coming up. But it goes much deeper than that, my darlings. See, when there are people that have tons of stressors in their life, but don't have anxiety. Meanwhile, there are those who don't seem to have that many obvious stressors who have very high anxiety, because it's about the fear wrapped up in your stressors. Okay, that's what we're really talking about in terms of anxiety. So, for example, it's not just a big project you're trying to get done. It's a big project you're trying to get done because you're so concerned that your team will be disappointed in you and won't want to have anything to do with you if you don't deliver. Or it's not just about your ailing parents and all the logistics. It's about that deep fear that you're not going to be able to handle the pain of them passing on. Or the bills to pay. It's not just bills. It's about the horrific thought of what a loser you're going to feel like when you have to go to your brother to ask for some help. Or that big talk. It's not just about talk and a little bit of stage fright. It's about this horrible fear that you might go blank, or that maybe somebody's going to stand up and call you a fraud. Okay, so it's the fear underneath all of we already have enough stress pummeling us, but when we attach all sorts of fear to it, that's when it becomes anxiety. Okay, anxiety actually happens when we have ongoing fear that we're not processing. Now, let me make it a little bit clearer what I mean by processing. Processing means facing the fear in some way and working through it, not running from it, not ignoring, not dressing it up like something pretty, but actually facing it and being with it and then moving through it. Okay, now, so when we have fear that is not being processed, that fear manifests as constant low-grade worry. Just hands. Anybody have that constant low-grade hurry? Yeah, my hand, my digital hand always wants to go up. There is that feeling of dread. Anybody, sort of have that feeling of dread that they don't really know how to explain? Yeah. It's a feeling generally of unsafety. Okay. And physiologically, it's felt as a tightness or a clenching or a burning or a freneticness in the body. I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I just want you to notice, as we're speaking about anxiety, you might be becoming aware of where it is in your body. So just noticing where in the body right now is clenching. For me, it's often the heart. But for some people, it's the upper stomach, the diaphragm. It might be the throat. It might be the crown of the head. It might be the pelvis.
Where's the chat?
But it's very physical. Somebody's looking for the chat. And you can open your eyes now. So just to be able to let you know that what you're feeling isn't just in your head, it is in your body. You're feeling it as a physical manifestation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be aware of it. So the question that begs to be asked is, why don't we just process the damn fear? Why don't you just process it, folks? Like, why are you here? Well, that's the billion-dollar question, I'd say. We're not taught how to be with fear in this society. Okay, maybe in the Eastern world we are, but not in the Western world. We are not taught one of the most important things in life, and that is how to be with fear, or how to be with pain in general. And so what we do is, fear feels so painful that we do everything we can to avoid it, which no surprise, makes it even worse because often the ways we try to escape fear make our anxiety even worse, like trying to control things, trying to distract ourselves, taking on too much, like overscheduling, procrastinating to stay away from it, perfectionism, again, to try to corner it. All of those, they get us in trouble and so much trouble. Um, I shared this today in a newsletter I sent out. Some of you may have read it, but I'll just share the story again because you need to know why this subject is has such a passion for me. The reason I'm so acquainted with anxiety is it's been a part of my life always. Um, I was a very sensitive little kid who absorbed both the awesomeness and the ugliness of the world. And because I didn't know how to deal with painful emotions in a constructive way, like almost all of us, there's no manual that's given to us. I don't know why not. Because I didn't know how to deal with those painful emotions, I tried to escape their intensity through the patterns of fixing and achieving. Okay. That was my little escape. That was the way I thought I was going to be able to skirt fear, was fixing and achieving. Well, that pattern landed me with a day timer at 10 years of age, literally had a scheduler. Little 10-year-old Kimberly writing in all of the things she had on her agenda that she had to keep up with. Was a very busy kid, I'll tell you that. Because my MO was achieving and fixing. Um, and then by my mid 20s, as a television host and a producer, my life looked pretty damn good on the outside. But meanwhile, I also had a 70-hour work week, panic attacks, and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And that was the moment, that point, right around my late 20s, that the anxiety just got so bad that it had to become my impetus for starting to take care of myself and learning how to process pain and cultivate more peace. So what I'm teaching tonight is what I've had to learn in order to deal with my own anxiety, and then the anxiety of my students and my coaches, my coachees, not my coaches, my coachees. So I'm going to take you through some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've found have really worked for me and for those that I've worked with. And we're going to be able to, we'll test drive, like I said, a few of them in real time. Some of them are just going to be able to give you a little bit of an overview of, but take some notes, and and any questions that come up as we go, I will try to address. All right, still with me? Everybody's with me? But I don't know, like talking about anxiety just kind of makes me a bit anxious, right? Okay, now we start to change that. So the first step that I think it's really important to do when we are looking at decreasing our anxiety is we do have to take an honest look at our stressors. Okay, the stressors in our life. It's not the everything, but man, if we have too many things in our life that are demanding our attention, too many fires to put out, too little space, then we are not going to be able to deal with the fear that naturally occurs in one's human life. Okay. Because even with the best tools, if you're constantly being pummeled by doing and problems, it's almost impossible for your body to adapt. So I like to do something I call a stress diagnostic. Okay. And I'm just going to give you a little rundown of this. I actually did a whole Changemaker session on the stress diagnostic rundown. So I'm going to get Kirsten, who's helping us tonight. She's taking part, but she's also my guardian angel who also helps with some links and tech stuff on the backside. So like I said, it's worth a whole session, but I'll just give you the Coles notes on this. So what you're going to do is you're going to just start brainstorming. You're going to take 10 minutes, and we're not going to do it right now, but if you want to do this on your own, you take 10 minutes, you write down all of the things in your life that are stressing you out, from big things to little things, everything in between. Okay. And once we have that list down, and you have to be candid, okay? Just because your kids are on that list doesn't mean you should be bashful. Their kids cause stress, folks. Okay, having kids can cause a lot of stress. So don't feel badly if you're putting things. Oh, we've got a little talking about kids right here. There's my kid. Hi, say it's hi to Cedar, everybody. Cedar just got fed and now is doing zoomies. Um, so what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I was saying that kids, for example, are something that should bring you joy, but it doesn't always. Even sunny days stress some people out. It shouldn't, but it does. Okay, so be real about what's going to go on your list. Then what I need you to do is go through this list, and you're going to go through with looking through at 4 different stages of this list. Okay, the first step on this list is to eliminate. Okay, so you're going to look at all your stressors and you're going to eliminate anything that's just not necessary. Okay, like, is it that important that you attend every meeting of the group that's putting together this pressure campaign? Is it do you have to go to every family dinner? Things like that. Like, really be real with yourself. Is this, and the question to ask, is this important for my survival or the fulfillment in my life? Okay, if it's not important to your survival or to your ultimate fulfillment, you might think about getting it off the list. Okay, the next stage would be decrease. So what's left on the list is stuff that has to stay on, but is there a way to decrease it? Is there a way to shorten the length of it, go less deep into it, have less people, do it less often? Or is there a way to delegate? Are there ways to delegate to others? Is there ways to delegate to systems? Okay, that's what decrease is all about. Then what's left on the list that hasn't been worked with, you apply the filter of alter. Okay, so the things that are on my list that are still stressors, are there things that I can alter in order to make them less stressful? For example, if I really get stressed out by laundry, could I just like listen to save the best podcast for my laundry, day, and listen to that podcast and just really like have fun with it? If I am, really afraid of going to this event by myself, maybe you could, ask the person who just really makes you feel at home to come with you. Maybe you could, if you have to work on a project that's really stressing you out, maybe you could go outside and work on it underneath a beautiful big tree that you can lean against. Okay, so that's alter. And then the last one, if you cannot do anything to these stressors to either eliminate, decrease, or alter, then you apply the adapt. Okay, you apply adapt. And what that means is you change your attitude about it. Okay, you change your attitude and you look at it like, okay, I absolutely, for survival, I need to go to this job, but I'm going to see if I'm going to count the ways that I learn today. Or I'm going to, I'm going to have to deal with this person, but I'm going to use it as an exercise in developing softness and compassion. So those are some ways to adapt. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little feel of that process, but please, if you haven't already done it, make sure you earmark the stress diagnostic Changemaker session to do that. Now, of course, I need to acknowledge there are some stressors that you will choose to keep around, again, because they're for your survival or they're a byproduct of something that is very meaningful to you, okay? So it's not that we're looking for a life without stress. We just want the stress to be worth it. All right. So before we get to some of the on-the-spot tools to pull out to work with anxiety, I want to talk about cultivating what I call the 3 levels of trust. Now, the big reason that we have fear, I'm just going to place Cedar on my lap. The big reason that we have fear is because we don't trust that we're going to be okay. Okay. That is why we have fear. When something big and intense happens, if we know we can handle it, it's an inconvenience, but it's not a fear. Okay. And so, what we really need to get in touch with, along with being able to sort of deal with anxiety, as it comes, is we have to start cultivating more trust in our life. Now, I know for people that feel anxiety, powerlessness, all of the above, the idea of trust, oh my God, what, how, where, in what world? So let me tell you a little bit about trust. So, okay. So first of all, I have to share this quote with you from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. He described humans as a bundle of tense muscles defending our existence. A bundle of tense muscles defending our existence. Yeah, because remember, the real cause of anxiety is running away from or girding yourself against that which scares you, against that which you don't think you can handle, especially the unknown. So, when we talk about the three levels of trust, and this is just something that I've developed over the years, this sort of language around it, there it starts with sort of the more obvious, and then it goes into deeper levels of trust. And I just want to give you a little sketch of this. And so, the first level of trust is resources. Okay. So this is the most sort of obvious and tangible level of trust. It is what you have that keeps you safe. It might be something simple like, I'm safe in my home. I have people who love me. I've got the ability to be able to problem solve. It's also looking at times in your past where you've been in very tight spots, or you've been very scared and you have found a way through it. So it is looking at what are the resources that can help you through the fear. Okay. And it's always really good, especially when you're going through a period of more intense fear or anxiety in your life, that you write down a list of what are those resources. Okay. And actually, let's just take a minute to do that right now. Okay. I think it's really good to be able to work on this first level. So let's just take 2 minutes, and I'm going to get you to grab your pen and pencil, sorry, a pen and paper. And I'm going to shut up, but I want you to write down just basically all of the things that you need to remember when you don't think you can handle something, when you don't think that you will be able to face or get through something. Okay. Who are the beings that give you that sense of I'm okay, that give you that sense of trust? What are the situations? What are the experiences you've had that give you that? And I'll shut up now for a couple of minutes. What are some of the resources that you have within you and the resources around you? It often helps for me to remind myself that I'm in a country that has democracy and has some social safety nets. And what are some of those experiences you've had in the past that show you that you can handle? a lot that you can find your way through. Okay, just another 15 seconds to finish that up. And I'd love to know in the chat, folks, if care to share. I'd love to hear just the different types of things that came up on your resource list, your first level of trust. If there are particular beings that came up, particular thoughts and ideas. I see Dominion said, stressed is dessert spelled backwards. I love that. Mhm. Yeah, Tenebrae said, my best friend, my partner. I think most of us would have at least one or two beings in our life that, we know are going to back us up no matter what. I hope that for you. I really do. Um, Kirsten said, a loving partner, mom, pug kids, safe, warm home. Yeah, it's the simple, tangible things we're talking about on this resource level. Um, Wendy said, I feel like if I show up and I'm kind and honest, the right people and situations will show up to meet me there. Yeah, it's just your experience. You've had that experience that if, you show up and you're kind and honest, you generally can get through it. Okay, love it. Thank you so much. Richard, who's texting me because he's on the phone, said doing something physical and active. That helps. Richard knows that he always has that physicality to be able to help him get through things. I love that. Me too, Richard. That's a big one for me. Okay, so I invite you to keep on adding to that list, folks, because that's a list that you want to go to regularly when you're starting that sense of anxiety starting to well up in you. Kathy said, knowing that resilience in the past has seen me through things. Oh my goodness, lady, it sure has. Yeah, amazing. Okay, so the second level of trust gets a little trickier now, but it's far more deep and fulfilling. And that is the trust in self, okay? Self relationship. So it's the trust, and I'm not saying you have this yet, but this is something that is very important to cultivate. And you know that if you've been in a few sessions with me, it's something I preach left, right, and center, is the importance of self-relationship. Okay. And that level of trust is the kind of level of trust that when you go out and you fall on your face and things are really bad, there is a voice inside you that says, sweetheart, oh, that was bad, but it's okay. I get it. I get why that went so badly. I'm here for you, honey. Even if everybody else turns their back on you, I will always be here for you. Okay? Now get up and let's fix this. Okay? That is self-relationship. That is the trust of self. I'll tell you, when after this, sort of wake up call in my late 20s, as far as anxiety goes, one of the things that I cultivated was self relationship, self love, self acceptance, whatever you want to call it. And it changed everything for me in terms of fear and courage. When I knew that I was always going to have a home to come back to in myself, no matter what happened, my sense of courage skyrocket. Okay. So make yourself a soft landing. You can do that by, journaling every day in a way that you sort of talk to yourself. You almost have a little bit of a coffee with yourself. You can do it by every time you look in the mirror, instead of, going, you say, I know it's a hard day, but I know I see you and I think you're doing great. Okay. Let's just keep going. It's that sort of thing. I also have a Changemaker session on a really wonderful way of being able to cultivate this self relationship through the way you talk to yourself. And Kirsten will put that into the chat as well. It's about toxic self-talk. Okay. And that's on YouTube. And I really, if you weren't part of that, you need to watch this one. Okay. The third level is probably one of the hardest to cultivate, but it is also one of the most boundless ones. And that is the trust in your universal nature. Now, it's a little esoteric. I'm getting a little esoteric here, guys, and I'm not going to go too far into this, but I just want to put it out there because this is a piece that, especially with anxiety and that sort of ongoing dread, it's a really important piece to have, and that is to recognize that you are part of this energy that makes up life, and you share the same energy with everybody and everything around you that you think is a threat. Okay. We're just different expressions of energy morphing around in this world. Okay. And so knowing that and this is science, folks, energy is neither created or destroyed, it just changes forms. So for me, knowing that no matter what I do, I will always be a part. I've always been a part of this energy and I always will be a part of this energy. Takes a load off of me. Now, what that energy is and what happens and why it's here, I'm not even going to go into that. I don't claim to know any of those big answers, but what I do know is what I'm made of and what everything is made of is okay. It's okay by me. And so the ways that I connect to that and the ways other people connect to that are through time in nature outdoors. There's nothing like putting your hands on a tree. Or I honestly do a lot of tree hugs. I pretend that I'm doing a runner stretch when I'm doing it so people don't look at me too strangely, but I hug a lot of trees. It is things like meditation where you start dissolving your thoughts and you allow yourself to just be. Okay, you just allow sort of the separation of you and this moment to kind of dissolve. For some, it's movement. For some, it's just really being immersed in something where you lose the sense of ego, you lose the sense of identification. Um, and so that is a lot longer of a process to cultivate. It takes more time, but if you can keep it in mind that this is an important piece to cultivate through writing, through stream of consciousness kind of work, through meditation, through time in nature, through concentrated letting go of thoughts time. That's how you start to begin to develop that universal nature. Okay. So, oh, just so you know, I'll give you another resource on this. I have a Changemaker session called Meditation for Changemakers that Kirsten will put in the chat. And also on my website, folks, I actually have meditations for you to use at any time. They're free. I've got a bunch of meditations. I'm going to be putting a lot more on for all sorts of different lengths, different, sort of themes, but ways of if you haven't been able to meditate, I try to make a meditation a little bit more accessible for you. So Kirsten has also shared that as well. All right. So before we start doing, I'm gonna get you to try a few more things. I just want to revisit this idea of changing the relationship with anxiety that Molly kindly brought up earlier, and treating anxiety not as a curse, but as a guide. Okay. And not as a guide, like, no, don't do this, but as a guide, an alarm system to say, ding, 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 something isn't being faced right now. Okay. You're not making room for something to be felt and processed. So for me, I used to think that anxiety was the biggest curse in my life. It was stealing the joy from me. It was so awful in my body and everything. But as you remember from my story, anxiety was the alarm bell that woke me up and got me to grow and commit to new, more expansive ways of being. Folks, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my anxiety. Okay. Unfortunately, as humans, we're lazy. We'll take the road, the easiest road until it's too painful. And then we do something different. Well, I was in so much pain, I had to take a different road. And that led me to, a different way of living. And then that led me to becoming a coach. And that led me to being here with you tonight. Okay. That doesn't mean that the anxiety is gone by any means. Okay. I still care deeply about the pain and suffering in this world. And I'm deeply committed to helping in this aching world, which means I still face a lot of pain and I still have a lot on my plate. But now when the anxiety comes, I try to listen to it as an alarm, to pay attention to what I'm ignoring. One of my favorite Buddhist teachers, Tara Brach, talks about meeting anxiety with a question. And this is the question. You're going to want to write this down. What is it I'm unwilling to feel? When anxiety comes up, asking yourself, what is it I'm unwilling to feel? And the answer is usually really important stuff. It's stuff that's been waiting to be seen and dealt with for a while. So I really just want to see if we might be able to reframe in the next little while anxiety instead of a curse as evidence that you're stretching enough to hit your edge. You're moving outside of your comfort zone. You're standing on the edge of a precipice and you're vibrating because of it. Okay. It's the sign that you're doing courageous work. Let the tingle excite you a little. Okay. Let's just see if that reframing might help a little bit. All right. So let's talk about tools for processing anxiety, okay? We talked about some ideas and some things that we need to cultivate in the bigger picture, but let's talk about in the, day-to-day, what are we doing with anxiety? So the first thing that is, and the most simple thing is breath work. Okay, it's about this as simple as when we get aware of the anxiety, stopping and taking a deep breath, and then we can get a little fancier. We can think about taking a few deep breaths, and then we can think about letting go at the end of those breaths, and then we can add. Well, let's just try it. Okay, let's just give it a go. So put your pen down and let's just close the eyes, making yourself comfortable. And let's just take in a great big breath. And on the exhale, let's just shake out the body a little bit. Okay, we've been listening for a while, talking about anxiety, shaking out the shoulders, shaking out the hips, shaking out the head, shaking out the expression on the face, shaking it all out. And then letting the body rest and letting the eyes rest. And now I want you to take in one big, conscious, slow, delicious breath. Now I want you to see if we can slow down the breathing a little bit. So maybe on the in breath, let's do a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. In breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now just letting your breathing go back to whatever pace feels natural. And now I want you to notice where in your body you're feeling the anxiety the most. And if you're not feeling anxiety right now, you could help it out a little and just think about a situation that generally makes you feel anxious. Again, just so we can test drive these. And noticing where in the body you feel that clenching, you feel that burning, you feel that tightness, that holding on for dear life. And what I'd like for you to try to do is just to breathe right into that place. And then on the exhale, just letting go of it. So breathing into that place. And then on the exhale, let go. Breathing into that place like you're digging into that anxiety. And then on the exhale, just softening and letting go a little bit. almost like we're sort of gently starting to dig into it and excavate it. Just breathing into that tightness. And then on the exhale, just loosening, letting go. Softening on the exhale. Just letting go. And if thoughts try to come in, just letting go of those as well. Okay, and I want us to try one more thing around the breath work. I'd like for you on the next breath in to just suspend your breath, okay? Just to stop breathing, just with a sort of fuller chest, just stop breathing. And now trying to just relax the body around that held breath, just letting the shoulders relax and the arms relax. And then you can let it go. Maybe just feeling like a little bit of a release, just that sort of little sense of letting go, of relief washing over that part of your body. And we're going to try that again in just a second. But the real work here is when you're holding the breath to try to relax the rest of your body. So on your next in breath, just bringing the breath in gently and then just resting at the top, holding the breath and letting the shoulders soften around it, letting stomach soften, letting the forehead soften. And it becomes really uncomfortable, just gently letting it go. This isn't a competition. And letting it go. And again, just really feeling that sort of little mini wash of relief. And one more big grounding breath. And letting go with a big audible sigh. And coming back to eyes open. Okay, so we tried a few different things in there, and I'm not subscribing you doing all of those in one little session, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of different types of breathing. So the first thing we did was we just took deep breaths. There was no focus in the in breath or the out breath. We just slowed down the breathing and created more space in the chest by a big breath. So sometimes that's all you're going to have time or the capacity for, is to realize, oh my God, I'm losing my shit. And big breath in and big exhale. Even that is enough to create a little crack for us to get in and go, "Grr!" Okay. And then what we did is we tried slowing down the breath. So we did the count to 4 on the in breath and the count to 4 on the in breath. That's just a type of meditation. Okay. Sometimes some people find it really good for, your brain not going in all sorts of directions because you're counting. And some people find it tedious. What the other thing that we did was we started to breathe into the place in our body where we felt the most tension. Okay, that is one of my personal favorites. I often do my meditations and start it that way. So was everybody able to identify where in the body the anxiety was residing? Just a hands up if you were able to identify that. Sometimes it's hard. And there went my digital hand. Sometimes it's hard even to identify it. Sometimes we're in such a tizzy of anxiety, we can't even feel our bodies. And that's why that's why I like to do a nice little shakeout, okay? Just to loosen up some of that tension right off the bat so we can connect when we breathe. And that's part of some of the physical cathartic work that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, but I wanted to give you a little sense of that right off the bat. But then what we did was we breathed into the place where the tension was. The opposite of what we almost always do. We do everything in the world to avoid breathing into that place of pain. And that is the root of all of the world's problems. I'll just tell you right there. No two thoughts about it. That's the way it goes. And we breathed into that place. And then on the exhale, we just had a sense of letting go or softening or relaxing, whatever works for you. Practice with all of those. I know they mean similar things, but you'll find that one of them really works for you. Like that idea of softening is so good, or that idea of um, just letting go. Okay, so find what works for you, and sometimes that'll change. So always be willing to adapt. And then the last thing we did was a suspended breath. Okay, that idea, and what I call this a circuit breaker. So what it does is it actually really changes our physiology, so that it's almost like a reset. Okay, a suspended breath almost gives us a bit of a reset. So you may have felt that sort of flush of relief after doing that. And so that can be a really lovely, just a really lovely thing to be able to do when we're really in a tight place. Um, Sam said, I don't have a location. I just feel sick. Okay, yeah. So Sam, it's just an overall thing. And so Sam, it would be really good for you to practice more and more finding where in your body, because my sense is probably that the anxiety is so strong that it's really disconnected you from being able to feel into your body. So your work might just be to take a couple of deep breaths and just go, where do I feel the tightness in my body? Just to practice. Thank you for sharing that, because that's something that a lot of people have problems with to begin with. Not for long, though. As soon as you start paying attention, that starts to change. Okay, now one other thing that you can add when you're doing this breathing work is that question, what am I unwilling to feel? Okay, so even Sam, some or any of you that weren't able to feel where it is in the body, just starting to breathe and just what am I unwilling to feel, and see if it comes up somewhere in your body and breathe into it. So the way we formalize this is, you can just do it and try to remember to do it when you notice your anxiety, and that may be several times a day. In fact, in the beginning, when you start to use anxiety tools, you're going to be using them all the time, because we have to deprogram the way that you've been with fear, and that takes a lot of work. It's taken a lot of energy to get you really cemented in this cycle of fear and how you react to it. It's going to take some work to chip away at it. But I just want you to think about every breath, every deep breath as one more little chip away at this fear base. Okay. So another way to just incorporate breath work a little bit more formally is you could, so one of my another teacher that I love, Tashi Nima, he runs a lot of meditation retreats for animal rights advocates. And Tashi talks about a 10 by 10. So that is 10 times a day, taking 10 deep breaths. Now, that's kind of Buddhist level. That's a lot. It's something we should all aspire to. But you could do a 5 by 5 or a 3 by 3. So you could decide. For me, I try to use regular cues in my day to practice some deeper breathing. To do meditative breaths. For example, every time I get up from my desk and come back down, I take 3 deep breaths. Okay. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit more, I'll take 5 deep breaths. Some people do it before they start their car, or when they park their car, or when they go from room to room. Okay. So there's different ways to cue that. But in order to be able to say, have a 5 by 5, 5 deep breaths 5 times a day, sometimes that's a little bit easier than having a formal, meditation practice where you sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. But I do thoroughly recommend also a sitting meditation practice. Okay. And again, I don't want you to be scared of this. I want you to realize that meditation can be 5 minutes. It can be guided, and it's not meant to feel amazing. It's meant to let you sit with the stuff that is happening for you and acclimatize yourself and soften around it and let go around it. That's what meditation is. And so don't be looking for perfection. Don't think, oh, I tried meditation once and it was really uncomfortable. That's what it's supposed to be like. It's retraining yourself. So if it's uncomfortable, practice the law of decrease and just do it for a shorter time. Or if it's really hard, practice the law of alter and do it with a really nice blanket and a soft cushion, or do it with other people. Okay. All right, so that's it for breath work. And also, like I said, we have the meditation resources on my website, so please feel free to explore some meditation around that. Okay, another piece that is so easy and important, I call sensory grounding. So, folks, anxiety can only exist in a moment if you are not present to that moment. Okay. If you're not in that moment, your anxiety will be. So, let's try to be more present. Okay. Not off, 5 minutes from now when, somebody's going to call, or 5 years from now when you're afraid you're going to be destitute in a ditch. Not, 5 hours ago when you had that, fight with your partner, or 5 years ago when you forgot your money at the store. Not all these things that bring you anxiety. When you are right here, right now, unless you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or you're have a gun to your head, there is really nothing to worry about right in this moment. Okay. So one of the best ways to be here, I find, is to use your senses. So we're going to try that right now. All right. So I want you to once again close your eyes, cast your gaze downward. If you don't like to close your eyes, you don't need to close your eyes totally, just so that there's not too much in your line of vision. And once again, let's take in a big, deep breath. And let's do a little sinker. And then letting everything go slack. And just slowing down the breathing. I want you to tune into the sounds in your environment. Maybe sounds that you didn't have a clue existed until this last few seconds. And really breathe into those sounds one at a time. Let that sound sort of connect with you, even if it's, generally an annoying sound. It doesn't matter. It's life, and it's here, and it's trying to anchor you in this moment. So each sound, breathe into it. Letting every sound be a little gentle nudge that says, come back here, be here now. And just letting the shoulders relax. Just letting yourself relax into the sound. Let's try another sense. I want you to feel the air on your skin. Does it feel cooler to the touch or warmer to the touch? Is there any movement in the air? And maybe just touching something near you and just really feeling it, like really feeling the texture of it. Is it rough or smooth? The temperature of it. Noticing anything else that you can about the feeling of it. Is it soft? Is it hard? Just really, really feeling it. Now letting your hand relax, and we'll do one more sense. And with your eyes closed, just noticing the visuals on the inside of your eyelids, noticing if there are any colors in particular, any designs, any movement. Go somewhere else, stay here. We might as well finish it off. Let's take a check in to see if you can smell anything in this moment. And then notice what you taste in this moment. All right, taking a grounding breath in and coming back to eyes open. I don't know about you, but I feel just a lot more present and calm. Anybody else feel that from checking into your senses? Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two hands from Andrew. I love it. And so we always have our senses, hopefully. And it is such a quick, visceral way to tune into right here, right now. And so how do you use this? Well, I find when it's a really good one for when I'm in a meeting and maybe my anxiety is sort of starting to come up. Maybe I'm around other people. And all I do, I don't change anything. Nobody would know what's happening, but I start to listen beyond the meeting for the sounds outside, the birds, or the sounds of kids or the traffic going by. You can also just, again, as a 5 by 5, 5 times a day, do a sensory check-in, and you could go through each sense. But for some of us, we have a sense in particular that really is magical in anchoring us in this moment. For me, it's hearing. And smell too can be very powerful for me. So, when you experiment a little bit more, you're going to find out which is one of your more powerful senses to work with. But you could just go through and you could, some people even do, like their top three senses, and they'll do, listen to for three things, feel two things, and smell one thing. Something like that, just as a little pattern. So it's a really great way. And folks, also just feeling your feet grounded, like sometimes just putting your feet on the ground and feeling that sense of being grounded, that sense of gravity holding you to our mother, the earth, can be a beautiful way to really be here. And let me see here. Okay, yeah, no, I'm going to build on this a little bit. Okay, I want to teach you something I call the reality check. Okay, so it's using sensory, but there's a little bit more involved, and it's a really nice one to disrupt the pattern. Okay, so this one will be real quick. Just closing your eyes. And now I just want you to notice that where there's anxiety, or that there is anxiety. And I want you to ask yourself, am I in grave danger? Because that's what anxiety feels like. It feels like that saber-toothed tiger's coming at you. It feels like that gun's being pointed to your head. But I want you to ask yourself right now, are you in grave danger? And so probably, and hopefully the answer is no. And maybe there's a little chuckle that goes along with that. Humor is amazing for breaking the tension of anxiety. And then the second question I want you to ask is, What is so right now? And that's when I want you to take stock of what is good, what is safe. Maybe it's just that I'm in a warm place right now and it's cold outside. Maybe it's that I have a loved one, in the other part of the house. Maybe it's that I love to learn. So there's so much possibility for me, so many ways for me to work through things. Maybe it's the cat purring on your lap. Maybe it's having a full belly. But just in this moment, recognizing it's okay. And I know it doesn't mean everything is okay everywhere. No. But right here, right now, you have sanctuary and you need sanctuary. Okay, breath in and coming back, eyes open. So the reality check, I really like I said, I talked you through it. It brings up a little bit, it kind of goes, come on, honey, be real. Okay. You're not in mortal danger right now. Okay. So why is your body screaming like it is? That said, folks, if there is a saber-toothed tiger chasing you or a gun to your head, you have my full endorsement to, go batshit anxious. Okay. So yeah, for sure. But it also gets you to check in and remember that things there, that you have safety. And again, like I said, folks, I know so many of us are aware of what isn't safe, of what is pain, what all of the suffering, of the danger, of the urgency, but we will not have the energy and the fortitude to even begin to address those things if we don't find some safety in ourselves. Okay. All right. I want to move on to another quick, I'll just give you the little rundown of the mind dump. We're not going to do it right now because we're running out of time. But another on the spot tool I love, or as a morning practice, is something I call the mind dump. And what it is it's taking a pen and paper. It could be your journal or it could just be a loose piece of paper. And it is starting to do a stream of consciousness writing of whatever is happening in here goes onto that piece of paper. Okay. It's a way of being able to process what we are holding, and some of that being fear. Okay. So it's about getting the big bad out of the head and onto the piece of paper where it's tangible. It's not this ambiguous sort of blob of fear and monsters. It gets on the piece of paper and you're like, oh, okay, that's actually not as bad as I thought it was, or oh, that's bad, but at least it's here. I got it, and I got it down somewhere. Okay, it's not just floating around in my head. So really, the rules of the mind dump are: you can write for 3 to 5 minutes. Don't stop writing. Don't think. Don't censor yourself. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, complete stream of consciousness. This is not for posterity. This is for you to be able to get it out of you, some of that tension out of you and onto the piece of paper. And it's not just the bad things. You put anything on the mind dump, because eventually when you start excising some of this fear, excavating some of this fear, what's going to happen is it's not all going to be fear that you need to write about anymore. There's going to be more room for, I wonder, and how you doing, honey? And I'm excited about, and this feels really good to me. Okay. So your mind dump, let it be open to anything. Another piece, and then we're going to get into our last two items, is the mantra, I have a choice. Okay. I have a choice. Now, I know a lot of things, a lot of those stressors on your list, it feels like we have no choice. But outside of dying, we have choices. Okay. And we certainly have a choice on how, in the way we die, mostly, usually not the way we die, but the attitude we have around dying. But I think it's really important because that fear often comes from a place of feeling like we're trapped, like we're closed in and that we have no choice, no way to get out. We're separate from everybody. We're caught in this little place and we're going to be in it forever. And that's what causes our fear. And so it's important to remind ourselves that we have choice. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, and this is sort of when this first occurred to me, that I wasn't giving myself choice. I wasn't giving myself permission. I was doing a workshop, a live workshop in my home, and I had a very bad week. I was feeling incredibly anxious and tired. And I was so wrapped up like a pretzel about doing the workshop. I just did not want to do it. And I felt crappy and I knew I was going to do a crappy workshop. And I looked in the mirror and a thought occurred to me. I just went, and I said this out loud to myself. I went, you know what, honey? You don't have to do this workshop. You could just lock the door and turn off the lights. People will go away eventually. And funny enough, and I kept going, and I said, in fact, you don't even need to stay here. You could just, you could just jump in the car and take off and not come back. Like I just let myself have permission to do whatever. And understandably, I didn't do that. Okay. I didn't do it because I cared about my students. I love the work I do. I just needed to know it was a choice. Okay. And that's what turned it around. Once I had that realization, I'm doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because this is part of my fulfillment. I'm doing this because I care. Then I went into it in a totally different frame of mind. Okay. So reminding yourself that you have choice. And I mean, again, it's not necessarily a choice you'd ever take. Like maybe you're not going to deliver your child to a fire station and never look back. But hey, entertain the choice for a second and just go, because sometimes we need to feel there is some freedom. Okay. There is an option. Again, not necessarily an option we're going to take, but that there's an option. Okay. Now, the last bit of techniques that I think are incredibly important are physical release techniques. Okay. Now, if you have done any workshops with me, you'll know I love movement. I believe, I don't just believe, but from trying it tonight, that your anxiety isn't just in the mind, it is in the body. Okay. It takes up residence in your body in terms of physiological feelings. Okay. Physiological states of being. And so sometimes we need to disrupt the anxiety by changing the body, okay, by changing the chemistry in our body. And so that shake it out that we just did before, like 2 or 3 of our exercises, I did that on purpose because that is my first line of defense for anxiety. When I feel like I have anxiety, I do a great big silly, if anybody was looking, you'll have seen me, but watch now. And it's not pretty and it gets my hair messy and it's silly, but it feels so good. Did anybody feel good when you did the shake-its at the beginning of those things? Yeah, it feels good. It releases something. It changes the chemistry. So I like to do shake it outs throughout the day. Whenever I become aware of anxiety, I do a good old shake it out. I often will get on my feet and I'll really do it up. I'll do it for 30 seconds. Sometimes I add music to it and I go for a couple of minutes and I I'll put some punk music on or I'll put some, heavy hip hop and I'll just really shake it out, move my body and try to move some of this energy out of me. Okay. And so this is, Carl says, I wish I could do that, Kimberly. You can do it, Carl. That's the thing. People, to be afraid of doing it on your own, I want you to think about how silly that is. You're the only person there witnessing it, and you should be comfortable with yourself. If anybody in the world you can do something silly with, it should be yourself. And it may just be to start it slowly, okay, like what we
I
did.
say
Just do.
something?
Yeah, of course, Carl,
I
please.
wish if I did that, it would be irreversible consequences, I think, if I did that.
Oh, you're afraid you'd let loose way too much, huh?
Maybe I would, yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe just start off gentle, Carl, okay? Just start off gentle. Like, you can just even do it out of your hands, okay? Or you can just give your head a little shake,
Yeah, the head
just
part I
something.
can do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, just do the body. Okay. Or I like just getting up and doing a little like adult temper tantrum, like just kind of, just feeling into what's happening in your body and then just, stomping, hitting, fists in the air. An adult, I call it a deliberate temper tantrum. But you know how kids are in the, they feel the pain, they're upset about something, and they just have a fit, and it's physical, and there's tears and everything. And then after 30 seconds, they're like, okay, can we go move on to the next thing? If we were able to express ourselves physically more often in safe ways, we wouldn't be holding so much in our body, folks. Okay, so I want everybody up on your feet. Everybody up on your feet. Okay, and you can get off. You can get out of the way of your camera if you want. If you don't want to, because I'm not watching, but I just want you to all feel this. So move off of the camera if you don't want to do it. If you can't stand up, it's okay. But it's really good if you stand up. Okay. Now, closing your eyes. I want you to think of whatever it is that has been sort of needling at your anxiety lately, or just touching into where it is in your body right now. If you're like, oh no, I'm already in anxiety, then touching into where it is in your body. Okay, so where is that anxiety? And if it's everywhere, that's okay. Work with that. And what we're going to do is in a minute, in just a second, we're going to take a very big, deep breath. And then you are going to do a deliberate temper tantrum. You are going to stomp. You are going to scream. You're going to wave your arms. You're going to do whatever you can. Taking a big breath in. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And before you do anything else, just closing your eyes still and breathing. And really feeling that. Feeling just, do you feel that? Do you feel that little bit of a breaking up, a little bit of space, a little bit of a crack for air to circulate? Coming back to your seat. Hmm. How did that feel? I'd like to hear in the chat, how did it feel to just have a little bit of a deliberate temper tantrum? You probably, endorphins are a fab antidote to anxiety. Yes, Molly, they are. Slavika said, awesome. Rosemary said, release. Wendy said, I went for it. My daughter in the basement texted me and asked if I was okay. Oh, amazing. Whew. Carl, you did your best. Not too bad. Excellent. I love it. Yay. Tenebrae freaked out her dog. Oh my goodness. Okay, so like I said, okay, I go a little bit further into these techniques actually in another Changemaker session that we did called What to Do with the Pain. And so Jenny said, I scared my chihuahua. And so Kirsten's going to put that one in the chat as well. And so we go really deep into these physical release techniques. But like I said, the shake it out is the very simplest one. Doing a full-on, full-body deliberate temper tantrum. And the big guns are getting some music out that amplifies this sense of what's happening for you and just really giving into it, really like allowing yourself to get into it. Or it can just be music that makes you want to release, okay? That like makes you want to pound and scream and yell and writhe and all that sort of thing. It can be incredibly powerful. One more tip I'm going to give you around physical release techniques. I love to do what I call cathartic cardio. So if you're someone who already does some sort of physical exercise, like running or swimming or the elliptical or a fast walk, what you can do is you can combine the two. Okay. So before you start your, well, I'll say run because that's what I do. Before I start my run, I will check in and I will ask myself, is there anything that I need to, any sort of pain, fear that I need to bring up and run through? And I actually have a little playlist for different emotions, but I have one for fear. And that fear pain list has, it's like kind of driving and it's a little bit dark and everything. And what I do is I put it on and I run into that anxiety. I run into that freneticness. I run into the fear, the anxiety. And eventually, the wonderful thing about it is I run right through it because I give myself over to it for a little bit. It's the physical way of saying what needs to be felt and seen, like that question earlier. Okay, what is it I need to attend to? And it's the physical way of doing that. And so I just run and run until I feel like something's been lifted, and then change the music up to something that feels really great. Okay, so that's cathartic cardio. I love having a little bit of a song list to go with that. That's how it really works for me. But you could just, put your mind to, I'm going to swim into the anxiety. I'm going to swim into the anxiety and the fear. It can be incredibly powerful. Okay, and I did say, you know what, I want to, yeah, we're out of time. Sorry, folks. I was going to end with a little meditation, but I think I've had you close your eyes enough tonight. So one little piece I'll just say is I do like to visualize as well. I like to visualize when anxiety is taking me over. It's really good to close your eyes and visualize yourself in a place that feels really good and safe to you, or with a person that feels really good and safe to you, or in a situation that makes you feel safe. That can be another little twist on the breath work. And the last thing that I'm going to say is humor. Okay, I already mentioned it a little bit. Humor. Anxiety works off the vibe that everything is an emergency, that it's do or die. Okay. And humor is the exact antidote to that. Humor says, who the fuck cares? That's what humor does, right? And so anything that can get you laughing, and even, here's the little thing I try to do when I have a situation that's really making me anxious. I will close my eyes and I'll envision it, and then I'll see something funny, like a line of dancing girls moving through it, or a French mime, or a sloth doing their slothy cute thing in it, or a pile of puppies running in. I'll do something to add some fun to it, to add a sense of humor to it. Okay, it can be a really nice way to be able to break up that situation, to disrupt it. All right, folks, I'm sorry I've gone long. I knew I was. This is a big topic, but I really wanted to try to cover as much ground as possible. I don't think we have time for questions, but I appreciate that so many of you have stayed till the end. Carl says, your choice of words makes me laugh, Kimberly. Yes, it makes me laugh sometimes too. Una says, humor works for me. Carl said, I use my exercise bike with virtual instructors. Yeah, so if you just set that intention, Carl, that you're gonna cycle through some of that anxiety, I'd love to hear how that goes for you. All right, can you all take yourself off of mute, because I'd love to hear your voices. Folks, thank you for being here. You're such a special group. I love seeing all your faces. It made me feel like I'm in my safe space. Just so you know, we do these Changemaker sessions every second Wednesday usually. We had to change it this week because I'm heading to Manitoba tomorrow. But I hope you'll join us. So the next one, I believe, will be in 2 weeks on the Wednesday. I don't know what the topic is, but if anybody has any requests, please message me or email me. I'm always open to topics. Okay. All right. How's everybody feeling? Are you feeling a little bit better, a little lighter?
Awesome. Yep.
Better.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Better. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Sending you so much
Thank
love,
you.
you
It was
folks.
amazing.
You take care and take
You
care of
too.
yourself so you can take care of that world out there. Okay.
Thank you
Bye,
so much.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.